Greetings. Yeah, greetings and welcome to Context Matters. The date is September 12th. If you never know, it's Gilbert Day. 36 years ago in Jamaica, Hurricane Gilbert came to the island. Back in those days, we never had Vision 3030, and Loving There did the song Wild Gilbert. That much I can tell you. What happened? You see this cocoa on my head? That's when I got that cocoa. It never left me since, and I don't know anything else about Gilbert except when I woke up, there was no power. We were out of power for a very, 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 very long time. For those of you who are on Instagram, big up yourself, coming on stream there. So for those of you on TikTok, you know it's go already. Top up the screen, share the live. To the people on YouTube, I want to say welcome as always. Big up yourself. Um, the following is growing. If you're just joining, I want you to like, subscribe, share. Let everybody know we have a very, very special guest today and a very interesting topic. It has to deal with technology in the age of smartphones, when people not so smart, people like me who can't use the technology. That's what we are faced with um, a lot of times. So that's really what's taking place in the space. Also, our guest, Mr. Sean Wenzel, is here, and I want to tell you that you are going to learn so much today. Um, Court had detained me today, so I'm apologizing for any hiccups that may arise today, because naturally, when these things happen, you find that once little rain fall in Jamaica, everything goes wrong. The people on the road, they really can't drive because 99% of them buy the license. And I'm not talking through the tax office, I'm talking through the back door. They really can't drive. So big up the moms them if you never met in an accident, and the taxi man them, do what you always do. So you know how that go already. But outside of that, the show is one where I think it is necessary in modern the modern age to have the discussion about the technology, especially when information is being disseminated all across many platforms, and the information you receive oftentimes, it would be information. It would be information that I can tell you right now is not necessarily information that you can trust. You're learning about the sources and just learning on how people can be so deceptive in terms of how they treat with giving you information and what it is that they do with the information when they get it. It's a very interesting thing, and one of the reasons why I raise it is to have you appreciate and have you understand that you will sometimes be deceived by information. So in Jamaica, there is certainly a new. It's not a new phenomenon, but what happens is there's some misunderstanding in terms of the rights that the citizen have versus the rights the officers think that they have in relation to um, the rights that they have in relation to be stopping, search, seizure, and even with the amendments to the Bail Act, the amount of time that they have to detain citizens. What happens usually is we every nation on the guard, yeah, they do not have or should not be in the business of turning ordinary citizens into criminals. And Lord Reed said that in Sweet and Parsley. That's a very famous case where a teacher was arrested because she rented her flat to some students who were selling weed on her property. And they tried to say she was also guilty of allowing them to sell weed. But knowledge is almost so important. So on a strict liability thing, I'm using it because the Road Traffic Act is a strict liability statute. In other words, you get a ticket for the ticketable offenses. What has happened is they've used legislations like the Road Traffic Act, and I'm making reference to the JCF, mobile patrol or whatever, ticketing people, police persons. They use these the legislation to kind of breach privacy rights of the citizen, and that is important. To note for the reasons that persons would find themselves in jail. What is an ordinary day? You leave home, you drive, you take the bus, you commute, and radam, you find yourself. And I saw Lexi, and I know when I see Lexi, it means that I either have not mirrored the photo on TikTok, but it should be good now. Ain't that right, Lexi? Yeah, yeah. So Lexi, we're good now. Yeah, and so when we take those things into consideration now, the whole aspect of the breach of the right to privacy and using the modern thing now is after stopping you, after um perusing and saying, let me look in your vehicle, or let me do this, let me do that, guess what happens? Like clockwork, radam, they say, let me take your phone, give me the code for your phone. The citizen now says, no, you can't look in on my phone. And because of that, they lock you up and try to detain you. What should be by the law 48 hours, guess what happened? It now balloons to a month, 2 months, and then your lawyers have to file successive habeas corpus applications for you to get you before the court. When you before the court now, radam, them say, true, them can't find nothing else. The one thing they use is they go to the Law Reform Miscellaneous Transaction, Fraudulent Miscellaneous Transaction Act, and all of a sudden you become a scammer. And when they call you a scammer, they say they find lead sheets and identity information thereof on your device, unbeknownst to you, and they find it in some file and everything, and they send it gone to the lab, so that a CFC report can be prepared for the case. And then you're going to be on bail until that time come. Sometimes those reports never come because it is just a delay tactics to have you detained and caught up in the law. And there's also this new phenomenon where persons who were wrongfully charged, wrongfully experienced, they go for their police record and they have all kind of manner of things on them nice, good, clean police record where they're not convicts. And it affects them in terms of your ability to travel, a breach of your freedom of movement, because you're not going to be able to move because they say that you're convicted or so. So all of these things I'm saying now is you're before the court, you're faced with anything from some communication, some information that you're not supposed to have. Let's just stick with the scamming paraphernalia, identity information. And they say it's on your phone and they might have found it in the cache. So somebody did email you, one of your friend them or whoever, somebody, a third party, unbeknownst to you, and it's in your phone, and you're going to be charged for it, and you're facing 15 years in prison or 10 years in prison because of this information that is simpliciter once you're in possession of identity information under section 10 of that particular legislation. A time now for you go to prison. But lo and behold, there are some experts out there who can tell you when information is planted onto your device, and you're being set up, framed. It could cost you 13 years of your life. Who knows? You could be an artist and you could have make a whole heap of money and they prevent you from doing that. And then you never contact one of the world leading experts to assist you in finding out whether or not, and this is the seminal issue for those law students who are listening, you frame your issue, whether the evidence found on your device was illegally placed there through phone tampering, rendering the evidence inadmissible before a court because it's either one, a breach of your privacy rights, the evidence, notwithstanding Herman and the King, which is tainted evidence, and we don't have fruit of the poisonous tree. A judge can say because of the constitutional breaches and because of your breach of a right to a fair hearing and your fair trial rights collectively, that the evidence shouldn't be in. But you need things to substantiate that. And how do you substantiate that? Well, you need an expert opinion. So you don't take it lightly. So you have some people, you have clients who like to say that the lawyers them done them money because they want to get these fancy experts and these people to they think it's a waste of thing. But a fulsome understanding of the law is to use all the tools in your in your arsenal, or all the tools in your arsenal, or your arsenal of whatever. I'm a gunman, so I don't know what I say, but all the tricks up your trade. I don't know, but then get what I'm saying. Finding all the mechanisms necessary to put before the court all that you need to ensure. But no one even help me. You see, TikTok people, no one even help me. Where all the bright people them there to make sure that what you have before the court ensures that nothing is wrong with you. Now, close that for me, please. You know matter this. Yeah, close it. Yeah, close as in lock. Yeah, please. Thanks. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So to ensure that the best case is before the court, because you see the defense never rests. The defense is here to win. Defense don't like to lose. The defense does not. The defense never gambles. The defense, notwithstanding that they don't have anything to prove before the court of the law, put everything to assist the court to ensure that mature consideration is had, and the decisions of the court always, especially in the criminal realm, ensures that reasonable doubt is not something that the other side can prove in light of tainted, tampered, corrupted evidence that they want to proceed with, notwithstanding. So this is all hypothetical, So for those of you who like to screen record and send it down to the places so people can lose them work on these things, just know that this is a very academic exercise. And to lead us in that academic exercise, we're going to have a discussion with Sean Wenzel. Who is Sean Wenzel? Well, he'll be the best person to tell you who he is. I will say to you, though, after hearing from Sean, you'll have a full appreciation of why it is that when dealing with anything in life, let me tell you, if you like Sky Juice, get this professional Sky Juice ice scraper ting would get the Sky Juice. If you like KFC, you get it from the Colonel. Or if you're in St. Vincent, you go to Kelly Glass KFC and you get theirs. If it is that you like water, of course you're gonna drink pure water because the water must be pure. Can't be so it have to be pure. If it is that you want if you have a medical illness, you go to the specialist that is the expert in the field. So it is that if you're building a house, you don't let your lawyer build a house. You get the masons and the architects and the people who are skilled to do it. If you're a footballer, you can't play cricket. It's like you can't be a cricketer. You can't be a cricketer like Marlon Samuels and then think say you're gonna just put out song and be a big dancehall artist. It don't work. So you see what I'm saying? You have to be the professional. Mind you, many people wear many hats, but a sign of a great professional is knowing what your limits are and seeking help and guidance from those who are more competent than you are, because at the end of the day, what you need to do is to ensure that the best foot forward is what's before the court in this realm. So Without further ado, what I'm without I'm going to invite Mr. Wenzel, and he and have the conversation. But I must say, there's a lot of things going on in the space, and to put things in context, why a guest like Sean Wenzel is important is this. One, Integrity Commission has a gag order. They are to issue the reports and for it to be tabled in Parliament, and only a few persons would receive it. Yet there are media houses behaving like the social media skettles who put out misinformations like Lady Whistledown, and they put it out there, and then people like the Prime Minister says, "Oh yes, I hear it was leaked," and my concern is how the PNP knew the report was ready, but not the concern that the media house was dashing out the information and whether or not the information is inaccurate and made to mislead the public. Things like that is why you need an expert like a Sean Wenzel to put things in context, because lo and behold, a very famous case this year that ended in the men being freed on August 31st. Can you believe that evidence was all over the internet and it was not in the court because it was lost? Because somebody take up themselves and take up the people them evidence to put it on the internet for sensationalism. So too, investigations can be tampered with by tainting the evidence in that manner. So that's the context that I want you to open your mind, prepare to be a critical thinker, listen to the information, l- dissect the information, try to comprehend and understand and grasp the information. Use the comment section as a tool, which I will be watching to ensure that you're able to ask the relevant questions. If necessary, I will open the phone line so you can have the conversation. But Mr. Wenzel is so detailed, pedantic, and particular that I think he will explain it clearly. I get in all my conversation in because I'm telling you, it's like when you're at an auction or the race or the commentators, when Mr. Wenzel touch the stage, I not gonna get for say nothing. So I just getting in all my talks now, so you guys can remember this voice, because you will hear it when the expert comes on the platform. So without further delay, I would like to invite the guests and welcome them to Context Matter. But before we do that, you know what it is. Even though we are like 20 minutes in, one of the things that is necessary to be done is to what I do every week naturally. Right? Yeah, I got a song for you. I like to hear it. Hear it.
It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way.
Greetings, Mr.
Greetings.
Wenzel. How you doing?
Oh,
All
I'm
right,
good.
so
How are you, I said?
I'm great. I'm great. Where in the world are you right now? We
Mon-
need to find that out.
Montego Bay.
Okay. You're okay,
Y-
Oh, you're in Uptown Jamaica. Very well, very well.
yes, you see all the rainy weather over there.
All right, great. So good to have you on the show. I mean, I'm leaving it to you to give the public your resume. What I can say is I know you are an expert, the best at it. The top expert walking around on the shores of Jamaica, and I would ask
I
you
don't know if I'd go
who.
that far.
I'll go that far, but I won't say I won't say who supplies you with the eggs, but you put a lot of eggs on people's faces at the end of the day when court cases are over. Many seminal cases. I'll leave it to you to just direct us on that. But the first question I'm going to ask you before you tell them about your resume, start with answering that question, and then you can put your resume out there. Why would a defendant need an expert?
Well, there's a few things. I mean, you said a lot of this. One of the issues that you have in some cases, and it really depends on. You have to look at the evidence, because for most cases that you're going to have out there, the forensic evidence should match the truth. But you may have a situation where the forensic evidence doesn't match the truth. Maybe there was errors collecting it or something. Maybe someone tampered with it. Maybe you have a situation where, somebody wants a promotion, or someone wants this, and, or they think you must be guilty of something, but they don't think that they have a strong enough case here. So they want to augment their case a bit. So there's all kinds of maybes, but the only way for you to know this is to have your own expert, because the other side has their experts. Like the police, if we're talking about a criminal matter, the police have their experts. They have a full lab. They have some of the best tools in the world. They have some really smart minds there. And if you, as a defendant, want to challenge that evidence, you need somebody who has the same expertise.
All right, but so tell me something. Would you say, and I like to put people in the hot seat, would you say that police experts are unbiased, or are they biased people who kind of put the evidence on a tangent that fits the prosecution's case? What's your take on that?
So my take, so the forensics labs themselves, they have a very high level of integrity. I mean, the people running it, I've personally met them. They are some of the most honest and trustworthy people I've ever met. And I don't have a bad thing to say. They have some great tools and so forth, but sometimes they can get tricked. And I've seen a couple of examples of the police lab getting tricked, and not by someone inside the lab, but by somebody, tampering with something before the phone made it into the lab.
Well, Lorraine says, I wouldn't trust the police experts at all, but you said they could get tricked. I'm going to just agree with you. I'm going to agree with you.
I can give you an example if you want.
Huh?
I can give you an example if you want.
No, go ahead. We are listening.
Okay. So this is one of the more entertaining cases. This happened a few years ago. It was actually a police officer. Yes. And they were trying to shut down a party at a bar. It was he and his partner, and they went into the bar. It was kind of and basically the bad guys in the bar, they locked the grill of the bar. So they locked the police in the bar with them. And one of the men threw a dragon on the police. And
hold on, right, dragon as in the dragon stone. Okay.
Right, he threw a drink on the police. Okay, and so the police is telling him, you're under arrest, and the police is dragging him out. You're under arrest. And the guy, and meanwhile, his friends are videoing this whole thing. And at some point, the police or the man grabbed a knife, and the man's partner shouted out, "Look out, he's going to stab you." And so the police, he turned, he saw the knife, drew his gun, bam, one shot. And so, the man's down, the police, they opened the grill quick enough. They got the guy, into the police car. Sadly, he died. And what happened was the bad guys took 3 days to edit the video, to cut out the self-defense part, and gave the video to INDECOM, and INDECOM charged him with murder. So fast forward several years, because there's been some backlog. Fast forward several years, and there I am in the Supreme Court. I'm in front of the jury.
Right.
I had spent a bunch of time with that video and went frame by frame through that video and was able to find exactly where they cut it. Like I found exactly. And so what you saw is, so the video is like 8 point something frames per second, which means
right.
And the officer, you see one frame where he's clearly got his gun at his waist, and the very next frame you see the gun in his hand. And I would have expected to see about 20 frames showing him reaching up, drawing the
whole
gun.
movement, right.
Because it wasn't one of those quick combat holsters he had on. It was just one of the old school ones. So I would have expected to see 20 frames. I didn't see any frames. So I went and back and forth with this in front of the jury about a dozen times. And then I said to the jury, as a forensic expert, I can conclude with 100% certainty that there are exactly two possibilities here.
Mm-hmm.
The first possibility is that this is a magic gun that just appears in people's hands anytime it's needed. Or the second possibility is the part of this software or the part of this video that showed him drawing the gun was cut out. Now, I'm a scientist. I don't believe in magic guns, but maybe you do. There's millions of people around the world who believe in Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, and all kinds of other stuff. And if you believe in those things, maybe you believe in magic guns too. I personally don't. But I do believe in video editing software. And that's why I put it to the jury. And the you should have seen the look on the jury's face. Like their jaws were dropping and everything. The judge, who's like right over here beside me, he was starting to stand up, about to cut me off, and the prosecutor was standing up. I moved to the second point quickly enough, and the prosecutor never recovered from that. She spent 3 days cross-examining me, trying to wrap me around a pole, and she wasn't able to do that. Like one of the things when you work as a forensic expert, all of those little tricks you lawyers know about cross-examination, we know that stuff too. And you guys may try and wrap us around a pole, but we can wrap you around the pole too, because we know the evidence better.
Oh, okay.
So this is the thing. Cross-examining an expert can be very dangerous because we're trained in being cross-examined, and we know, like, in terms of answering the questions, like, for example, the lawyer may ask a question and then I start answering them. Oh, yeah, no, answer me yes or no. And they'll lead me down the garden path. Yes. And then finally they get to a question where they're trying to trick me. And I say sort of. And no, it's yes or no. I say, no, it's yes and no. It's a bit of both. Can I explain?
She wants to lock you into a particular answer to
exactly.
frame. Okay, right.
Because that's what you guys try and do. Is like you'll sit there and cross-examine
listen, Mr. Wenzel, respectfully, when I just want to know the truth. So when I cross-examine, it's just to find the truth. The wrapping around poles thing, because this is context matters, I leave those to the strippers. But it's fine.
But
Go ahead.
If you guys, but one of the things that they often try to do is impugn whoever the witness is. Like
that is true.
You want to make the witness look bad. If it's an expert, you want to make them look like they don't know what they're talking about. So
no, man, that's true.
You catch them in a conflict. And interestingly, this is one of the other areas with forensic. Like one of the things that we do is finding and preserving online evidence. There was another case that I'd worked where the complainant had given these interviews, like these hour-long interviews on Wayne Lonesome's show. And I found them and we, downloaded them and we had them all packaged up. And you can imagine her horror when she walks into court one day and there's a big TV screen pointed at the witness stand with Wayne Lonesome's face on it.
Right.
She didn't exactly enjoy that.
They are saying that there's a lot of noise in your background. They're picking up a lot of, like, is there a child in your background?
Oh, yeah, I can tell him to.
Yeah, if you can, because they're hearing it. I see people are saying that. No problem. So while he fixes that situation, here's what I will say. In the interim, that note the issue of he raised the issue of cross-examination. When people want cross-examination, certainly is to discredit witnesses. In relation to expert witnesses, I don't know how much discredit you can do, but to say that they're not sure of the forensic aspect of what they're talking about. So I'll probably get more. I'll speak more to him on more about that with him.
And sometimes what they'll do is they'll try and make it seem like we're not being impartial. Like I'm, because this is the rule. Like I may be paid by one side, but I'm legally required to be impartial, which means if the evidence I find doesn't support the defense's case,
Right.
well, I have to say it as it is. And if the other side's counsel asks me a question, I have to answer that question and have to be very impartial in how I answer it. So, but sometimes they'll try and say, okay, no, we suggest that you're being partial towards the defendant.
Okay. Now let's talk. Let's talk real quick, so we can, before we get into some of the exciting stuff. Just your
Sure.
resume, especially in relation to how I knew you, was your work on the Sean Campbell and others, aka Vybz Kartel case,
Yeah.
and the complexity of your report. I'm still trying to digest it. I must confess. Especially in the realm that it was a double barrel. Double barrel meaning you dealt with the technology aspect of the case, but also what crept into it over the years was the social media aspect, and its influence or effect on dealing with the technology, especially in relation to juries. So I just want you to pretty much tell us about your resume.
Okay,
Okay.
so I studied. I run a consulting firm. We don't just do forensic. There's a lot of other stuff around IT that I do, and I have a team of people. But the one interesting specialty I have is digital forensics. It's not something I do full time, but I've been doing it for about 20 years. I studied. I have my bachelor's degree in engineering. I studied digital forensics at the SANS Institute in the United States, which is the same institution that the FBI sends their cybercrimes analysts through. So that was very educational. And the interesting thing there, some of the more interesting education is after class every day, all the classmates would go out for beer and share stories. And some of the stories from the FBI analysts were just crazy. But getting that kind of exposure to those types of people, and also to that level of forensic training, and also the level of best practice, like, things like forensic integrity, best practices around forensic integrity, chain of custody, that type of thing.
Yes.
And there's a lot of continuous learning you have to do, like in terms of just reading up on what's changed in this and what's changed in that, different tools, that type of thing.
Okay.
I'd say over the last year, if you've heard about a high-profile case in Jamaica and it involved a forensic expert, either on the civil side, I do about half my time on the civil side and half my time on the criminal side, that person was probably me.
Okay. Tell me, give me two. No, because if I said two, I know the two you gotta give me. Two other than anything related to the Sean Campbell case, that you'd say would have been high profile enough that you'd have participated in.
Yeah. So, okay. So one I was involved in was the case that was kind of tied before that, the cartel juror case.
Okay.
They had mentioned me publicly in the press for that.
Right.
There's another case that I was involved in, which was that the same police officer I was telling you about. There's another case I was involved in where there was this lady who basically decided she wanted to frame up a high-profile businessman and local area counselor. And one of the things that she had done was she made some basically fake forensic evidence. Like she met with the one guy for 2 hours, and she had this voice recording software, and what she kept doing was stopping and starting the recording. But in the meantime, in between those gaps, she was asking leading questions, and they had arrested those guys for attempting to pervert the course of justice.
Right.
Now, there's a bunch of interesting stuff that we found on there. One of which, we found that whole thing with the recordings. That was the same one I'd mentioned in terms of the Wayne Lonesome interviews. There was also an interesting thing where we found that there were actually 5 recordings. But when the phone got to the forensic lab, there were 4. And somebody had intentionally, they not only deleted one of the recordings,
Yes.
but they took a bunch of pictures at the maximum resolution mode to cover up the space on the storage that had that photo on it. It's like someone had enough sense to realize that someone like me or someone like the police lab, if you delete something, it's not actually gone. And so there is a way to get this stuff back. And, but if you're able to overwrite it or something like that, which these guys were able to do, so I was able to find out what the file name was, but I wasn't actually able to recover the contents.
Okay, but if you found out the file name and don't have the content, just from an expert standpoint, how crucial it is to discover there was a file in the absence of the contents.
Well, where this gets interesting is based on the timing. Like what I was able to do is based on the timing of what was on the phone and the other things, I was able to prove that the file was deleted in a half-hour window. I knew the half-hour window at the time the complainant was at the police station, and the pictures that were taken inside the police station. And so what that is so there's evidence there of tampering. There's somebody who might have coached her or something. Okay, we need to get rid of this one recording because it doesn't fit the case. Now, the analogy I'll typically give for forensic evidence, it's kind of like chicken. So think about this: if you go to the shop and you buy a chicken, and you get home and you're just about to prepare the chicken and you're seasoning it and stuff, and then you discover that part of the chicken is rotten and crawling with maggots. Now, do you cut that piece of chicken off and season up the rest of it and cook it and serve it for your family? Or do you take the whole thing and fling it in the rubbish bin and go buy something else for dinner?
All right, so let me answer that. You go to KFC, you buy a 6-piece barbecue, and you throw that chicken and all that cooking stuff in the garbage.
Exactly. So
they don't do that here.
Right, but the thing is, what you have is that you have the phone. If there's one piece of rotten evidence on the phone, the entire phone becomes suspect. Because the chicken, you're assuming that there's part of this chicken
that is still
that's still rotten that you can't see. You can see this one part that's rotten, but there's probably some maggots crawling around inside somewhere that you can't see. So the entire thing becomes suspect. And the same thing goes with if you find something wrong on a phone or, some other like evidence of doctoring, or if I have a recording and that recording, I have proof that recording was doctored. Well, not only is that recording suspect, everything else on that phone is suspect. Okay. Because whoever was doing that, they might have also tampered with something else on the phone, and that can be a problem. Same thing if I find there's like, say, a evidence drawer and there's one piece of evidence that may have been tampered with, well, that calls into question everything else that might have been in that drawer too.
Okay. Can appreciate that. Now, in terms of when giving evidence before a jury, are you how do you go about ensuring that you communicate effectively for the jury to understand? Because the technology stuff is just a little bit.
I like to use analogies. So like just kind of like I use the chicken analogy. I like to use things like that. Good analogy. And break it down, because the thing that you find is so for example, that one jury with the police officer, the attorneys had warned me that, the jury that they've got, they're country people, like they don't have a lot of technology background. And so what I did is, you break that down to concepts that they can understand. They're not stupid people, they're very smart people, but they just don't understand those techie concepts. And so you just have to break those down into terms that they understand and take a little bit of extra time to explain this or explain that. Like, the thing with the video, I had to, when I'm talking about frames per second, I had to explain what is a frame. explain it in the context of like a movie at the movie theater. They're used to that, where they can say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
the frame is, as the film is going through, it's, it keeps showing you different frames, but your brain is seeing it as a constant motion. Explain it to the jury, and then they understand the concept.
Okay. Now, what about they're appreciating your analogy. So apparently, using our analogy to have them understand is one of the best ways to go. Now, there are still some terminologies that maybe what I should ask then is this: how is it that the evidence in the Palmer matter, the Sean Campbell matter, how is it that there was this discussion that the piece of chicken, they were able to cut the maggots out and still cook the chicken and had nice dinner for 13 years?
Well, his problem was in the initial trial, he didn't have an expert on the defense side. If I was working on that trial, they wouldn't have gone to prison at all.
Wow.
Because the
But
evidence.
how about they went to prison anyway because the jury was tampered with?
Well, the issue with that.
Things that
So,
make you go, Go ahead.
but the issue, the big issue that you've got is the evidence that was put before the jury. Some of that evidence was tainted, and the jury wasn't told that. So that case basically was held up by 3 pillars, 2 of which were very shaky, but the jury wasn't told that. Some of the evidence that was on that phone, you saw my report. Some of that stuff is fake as a $3 bill. And that, and you can show that. I can talk about some specifics if you want me to talk about specifics.
No, I'm glad you just said that, because you said a $3 bill, and I was like, Marcus Garvey, Bustamante. I was calling him out, and it was like, there's no $3 bill. So
exactly. Exactly. You might as well stick your face or my face on it.
Right, but you can give me the examples. I'm interested to hear your take on it.
Yeah. So there's a couple of interesting things with the forensic evidence there. So one of them is Kartel and his friends were arrested on September 30th.
Right.
The phone was forensically imaged on October 14th. So a forensic image is where the examiner, they take a copy of the phone, and that's the copy that they work with for their analysis. So there's like a 2-week period in between the arrest and that where the phone should have been shut off and put away. Now,
right.
it was publicly known in the trial that there were some phone calls made from it. There were some that came out in the first trial, but they didn't have an expert to actually drill into the other stuff. Now,
right.
Some of the other stuff I'll tell you is October 9th at midnight. So this is midnight on October the 9th. That's a Saturday night. Somebody took that phone out of the evidence drawer, put the battery in it, powered it on, connected it to a PC using a cable, and then used a tool called Documents to Go to sync that phone with that laptop. Now, one of the folders that changed when they did that was the voice notes folder.
Right.
So what that suggests to me, so at least one of those voice notes is fake. I don't know which one, but that's suggesting to me that one of those voice notes, there's a problem with it. And the issue that you have is when you do this type of syncing, you can also change the date of the file. You can change the time of the file and stuff. So that's a problem. Now, let's talk about some other problems. So you might have seen there's a bunch of pictures and there's video that's circulating. So you guys probably saw a video. It's like 2 minutes long, and it shows a bunch of guys and they're standing around talking. One of them's holding a pickaxe. Some people said, okay, this is a video of the murder. No, it's not. There's no murder happening there. It's just a bunch of guys standing around talking. Now, the problems with that video, you can only see the guys from the neck down. Like, who takes a video of your friends only showing them from the neck down? That's weird. The audio, yeah, like, why would you do that? That's, and then the second thing is the video. If you look at the epoch timestamp in the video itself, and the timestamp of the file, it was done at 6:34 p.m. Sunset that day was 6:33 p.m. I should have seen some light coming in through the window. It's sunset outside.
Right.
It's pitch black. That doesn't fit. If you listen to the audio quality, like you see the nice set of headphones, I use these for audio analysis. You listen to the audio track and it's perfect, absolutely perfect, too perfect. You can hear the man's rings tapping against the handle of the pickaxe as he shifts it back and forth. That's not what I expect to hear from a BlackBerry's microphone. That's what I expect to hear from a condenser mic in a recording studio. That level of quality.
It's like an isolation of that aspect.
Right. So that's a problem. And then the next problem that you have, I mentioned, so you've got that. And so anyway, there's some problems with that video with that. Like I said, the sunset is really a big problem. There should be light coming in the window. And, so that's an issue. The next issue you've got, there's a picture that you see, which is presumably the same guy holding the pickaxe. And this is one that was floating around on social media too. And this was called soulreaper.jpg. Now, that picture was taken based on the timestamp of based on the EXIF metadata inside the file.
Right.
Said it was taken at 7:10 p.m. on August 16th, which is the date of the alleged murder.
Right.
And this is also the file where they were able to pin down Kartel as being at that house on Swallowfield Avenue because it had location services turned on.
Yeah, geolocation.
And so you have the latitude and longitude stored inside the file. But where it gets interesting is the timestamp of the file shows that it was taken at 7:13 p.m. on the 17th of August, 24 hours later. That's not possible. The only way that's generally possible is if someone went in and they edited the metadata or they edited the timestamp. One of those two things is off.
Right.
The next thing that's wrong, there's some other pictures there. So Kartel got bitten by his dog and had gone to Andrews Memorial Hospital to have it stitched. And that's on the hospital. That was one of the things that was in evidence. The hospital had their records and so forth. So there's a picture that he took of the wound before. You just see the homemade bandage. And then there's a picture he took after with the nice clean hospital bandage. And you can see from the background, these were taken at the hospital. So the first picture, the before picture was taken at 7:09 p.m. And the after picture was taken at 7:40 p.m. Now, I know, Kartel's your client. His nickname is World Boss, but his nickname is not Superman. He doesn't have a Superman cape in his little bag where he can take that first picture at 7:09 p.m. and then somehow make it to Swallowfield Avenue at 7:10 p.m. to take the second picture, and then make it back to Andrews Memorial in rush hour to get his leg stitched. So that doesn't fit.
Well, I put it to you, Mr. Wenzel, when you are the world boss and you own the world, all things are possible.
Yeah, but not that. Definitely not that.
And he does, I must tell you, but you can't tell him that I told you this. He has teleporting mechanisms. And in fact, they borrowed it from him when they were making Star Trek. But so just ask Scotty. They always beam him up. But go ahead.
Yes, and that is basically the only possible explanation, other than something was messed with that one picture. Because the other thing, like I said, those other two pictures and the other pictures on his phone, location service was turned off. Why would he turn location service on for that one picture? And by the way, if you turn on location, well, some of the pictures had location service, but most of them didn't. But if we can say that there's a decent likelihood that EXIF metadata was tampered with, that also means it's not necessarily just the time that was tampered with. Okay, it could have been the phone model. It could have been the location. I mean, that all could have been there. There's free tools out on the internet that you can take a picture and you can just key that stuff in.
Right.
So if once that one piece is called into question, the rest of it kind of gets called into question too. So, that's the issue. So that's basically the issue you've got. You've got some of this stuff that's on there Like I said, as from an evidentiary perspective, it just doesn't fit. Like I said, that picture where you see them from the neck down, well, that means you can't see what their lips are saying, which means someone could have completely replaced the audio track on that recording with something completely different.
Yeah, I actually can tell you, there are two separate transcripts for that video, which is so interesting because one, the video is alleged to be the murder, and then one is it's a pre-planning, and one, the words being said, it doesn't line up with the actions in the video. But most importantly, like you said, in the absence of the ability to even read the lips.
And by the way, anyone who wants to see this stuff, anybody who wants to see this stuff, it's still out there on the internet. Last I checked, it's still out there on YouTube. Go listen to it yourself. Put a nice pair of headphones on and see if you hear the same things that I'm saying. And you'll see, as I said, the audio track doesn't fit. There should be light coming in the window. And the fact that it was recorded like that, like I said, that entire thing is just questionable from my perspective.
I remember one of the things that you told me was like the forensic photos. The things were like they were taken a month apart, and the things weren't moved. Like it was a recreation of what was in the video. They tried to recreate the space.
And what was interesting is like the police they had a whole set of photos of the supposed murder scene like this, and so they had the whole thing. Now the things that you find, there's a bunch of stuff, like there's mattresses kind of flung around. All of this looked basically the same as what we had seen in that recording. You had little cardboard boxes with stuff in them, and all of these things are porous, and blood is what they call a non-Newtonian fluid. If that was actually the murder weapon that they're walking around with, I would expect to see a whole lot more. And you can't scrub that out. They mentioned that the place smelled like bleach. That bleach doesn't get that stuff out. You can't get blood out of cardboard with bleach. It tends to get into surfaces and stick. Now, there was one drop of blood that they found.
Yeah, but when you put bleach, all the bleach does is to change it almost like back into how blood flows within your body, like white blood cell thing. But if you put a UV light over the space, that's clean. I watch enough CSI.
But so they found one. There was one drop of blood. They put numbers around it. They took a picture of it, and they sampled it, and they brought in their DNA expert, and they had what do you say? And they actually. So they brought their DNA expert in, and they took a sample of one of Lizard's relatives. And the expert concluded this is not possible that this blood was Lizard's.
Right. It also turned out to be animal blood, but that was a problem for them. So
So there's a lot of,
But Beanie Man did say old dog like we. So what can we say? But continue.
So that's one thing. Now the other thing that's there too is so you remember I was telling you my story about the rotten chicken. So that phone. So now I have proof of actual tampering on that phone,
right?
Which means basically that entire phone and everything else that's on it comes into question, because I don't know what's true and what's not. There's very possible if someone's put that there, someone could have put something else there that I didn't find. So the reality is that at that point, all of the evidence gets called into question. Now that leads us to the second problem with the cartel case. So they'd asked for a bunch of location data and call data from Digicel. And that was one of the big bases of the case. So they got this, it's basically this dump. And it was provided to the police or to the prosecution, who gave it to police on 2 CDs. There's one CD that was marked JS1 sealed copy.
Right.
And the second one was marked JS2 working copy. Now, for some reason or another, they lost the JS1 CD. So they couldn't find it when it came time to go to trial. So what they were left with was just the JS2 CD. Now the JS2 CD there were no markings on the CD itself. It was just a blank CD in a case, and the only markings were on the cover of the case. So the problem is that CD was stored in the same forensic lab as the phone.
Right.
Now, I mentioned already the Saturday night special that happened with the phone. Well, how do I know that something didn't happen with the CD too? Because all someone would have had to do, take the CD, put it into a laptop, copy the contents off of it, make whatever changes they want to make to it, and then burn it to a new CD, and then put that new CD back into the case. And the thing is, this isn't necessarily even implicating any of the officers, because one of the things at the time, if you think back to 2011, I mean, this is just after, financial crisis, all that kind of stuff. And it was kind of early in the journey for Jamaican forensics. So some of the capabilities they have now are far better than what they had back then.
Right.
And some of the stuff, like one of the things that came out in the original trial was that the locker that was being used to keep the evidence in, like the phone in and stuff, the officer, they didn't take the key home with them. They just took the key and left it on top of the locker, so that anyone.
But that is not forensic, though. Who does that?
But what that means is like you're trusting that anybody who has access to the physical space, like who has access to the lab, they can open the locker. They have access to that evidence. And
right.
And so the trouble that you have is, I mean, even the janitor could have gone in there, or the janitor could have let someone in there.
Right.
We don't know. This was, like I said, 13 years ago, on a Saturday night at midnight. Right. Somebody went in there, but whatever access logs or whatever would have shown that, those are long gone. And that's part of the challenge that you have in terms of trying to get a fair trial is you can't get that evidence back. It's gone. And same thing with the Digicel stuff. They don't keep stuff forever. And so if we were to go back to Digicel and ask them to reproduce that evidence, they couldn't.
Right.
Because it's been purged from their systems. So this was a lot of the stuff when they talk about fairness in the trial, and you can't get a fair trial with that. And then the other thing too is that all of this evidence, this tainted evidence, somebody leaked it out. This stuff got leaked out on the internet, and I went through this stuff. I had the actual.
We're at the 5 o'clock mark. Just hold that thought. We just need to do a time signal. Yeah.
It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the issue that you've got, like I mentioned, there anyone who had physical access to that space, even the janitor, could have let someone in and do whatever to it, and we can't go back in time and see whatever camera footage there, it's gone. Whatever access log footage is gone. If we go to Digicel and ask for them to reproduce the data, it's gone. Witnesses don't remember things. You can't find some of the witnesses. Like there was like a taxi driver who they believed could have been an alibi witness for Kartel and his friends, and they haven't been able to find him. This was 13 years ago. So, I think, I personally think justice was served.
Okay. Now, in terms of, you said a lot. So I'm looking at the comments. So just in case I think I'm not watching what they're saying, as you're saying these things, one of the concerns is people are saying, well, if people don't have money, they can't get their freedom because they can't pay for an expert. What is your thoughts of, in light of your experience working in the criminal justice system in Jamaica, the need for an Innocence Project?
I think it would it's one of these things that would be a good idea, and also just the having, for example, where legal aid could cover cover an expert, and maybe you have to have some sort of a control where we make a determination if an expert's actually required, and possibly some sort of a contingency too. There was one case that I worked where, and this was interesting. So the attorney had gotten some instructions
Right.
that said that basically had suggested that the call logs that they'd gotten from Digicel they were incorrect. So they put me in touch with Mocha and the prosecutor, and there was a bunch of back and forth because the phone itself was broken. So what I ended up having to do was we found I got a Samsung authorized technician. We did the drive. We went to Mocha's headquarters. We sat there in the boardroom. They had about a dozen Mocha officers watching, and the technician sitting there on the boardroom table. Opened up the phone, changed the battery, put it back down, and charged it for long enough that we could get a decent charge. And we saw that the phone powered up and stuff. Okay, cool. Technician, I think he was feeling a little bit shaken up, and anyway, he went back down the elevator, and me and a couple of the officers, we went to the Mocha lab. We connected the phone up to one of their imaging stations. We took a fresh forensic image of the phone, and they took that image. They gave me a copy of it. They kept a copy of it. I went home. I opened it up. I did the whole analysis thing, and you know what I found? Exactly the same thing that was in the Digicel report. So, the guy basically, wasted money on because I can't lie. So if someone gives instructions and says, okay, this is what's in this call log is wrong, I'm going to go in the phone and I'm going to look at the phone's call log
to match it
and look to match it. And in
and
that case,
if it matches, it's your duty to present that to the court as a match.
Yeah, well, I'll present it to the defense attorney because at that point she's just not going to use me in the trial, because at that point my report doesn't help the case.
Okay.
So yeah, but this is part of where I try and save my clients money too. Is like I'll do the initial analysis, and it's kind of like what I did with Kartel. Like I'll do the initial analysis, and if I find at the end of that analysis I can't help you, I'm not even going to go through the work of writing that report because you're not going to need a report.
Mm-hmm.
If I find going through that either I can't extract the evidence or it doesn't support the case, then it kind of stops there, and it cauterizes the amount of work that needs to be done.
Okay.
So there's more people I think who could afford an expert than think they could.
Yeah. So for me, certainly when depending on who the client is, because naturally there are clients who can afford it and the ones who don't. You can't have people languishing in prison. So certainly an application to a judge, depending on the judge, about equality of arms is to say the state should pay for it because you must be able to have equality of arms because this is a real it's a real life situation. It's just that sometimes money will always be the great preventer, and so
And
one cannot deny that.
I like that term, equality of arms, because the prosecution, they have their experts,
Mm-hmm.
and they can call on, and they'll bring the court, and these are people who've gone through very similar training to what I've gone through,
Right.
And so you need to be able to offer up something similar as part of the defense if you want to challenge that evidence. Otherwise, that evidence will just be accepted as is, and that was why Kartel and his friends got to spend 13 years in Tower Street.
I see. I can appreciate that. But similarly, in this last leg, your evidence went unchallenged by another expert. One wonders where were the experts from the Crown to rubbish your report. No such person showed up. So I just want to know in the aftermath if you intimidated anybody or threatened anybody, or
I,
I don't know.
I,
Just
the investigating officer in this case is one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's absolutely brilliant. He is also someone I'd consider inherently trustworthy. I don't think he's even capable of lying. So but I think he got tricked.
okay.
You basically assume on the 14th that this phone has been securely locked away. He's not expecting someone to be rummaging around in there and mucking around with it at midnight on a Saturday night before he did that imaging. So I think he got tricked. Any of us are capable of getting tricked. That's the sad thing. None of us are perfect. And I don't think, like I said, and it's not something you would generally expect. Like you're expecting that, this is locked away. I'm trusting that it's locked away and nobody has gone in and tampered with it because it's securely locked away. So that's what I think happened there.
Okay. No, I just not to divert or get
Mm-hmm.
away from the Sean Campbell Vybz Cartel case
Mm-hmm.
per se, and just to talk about just the state of the evidence. To me, as I would have said, evidence is not an emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's important that, as you said, you can't lie. The
Mm-hmm.
objectivity of the expert opinion and what you see will heavily influence the court generally, because it's not ordinary evidence. It's done with expertise. It's done with proper. You are very meticulous and pedantic, and experts are, which is why when the
Mm-hmm.
state brings an expert and they say this is what I found, the jury believes generally, and there would be no reason to lie. But in the advent of technology, especially we're now in the age of AI, we're now in the age of video splicing, audio splicing. You made mentions of you know overdubbing and all of these things. I mean, what does it say for the position of reasonable doubt, and what should juries be looking for um, when called to duty and be forced to have to consider evidence that they really know nothing about?
Yeah. One of the biggest concepts they need to think about is what's called forensic integrity.
Hmm.
Um, Now, forensic integrity is, for example, when they seize a phone from someone,
Hmm.
what they should be doing, that phone should go into a sealed evidence bag. And that evidence bag should be signed. There should be a log showing the serial number of the evidence bag. And then it should stay there until it's time to actually be analyzed. Um, and then when it's analyzed, one of the tricky things with evidence is that it's not like a fingerprint. It's not like a blood spatter with a phone or something. It's just ones and zeros. And
Hmm.
an expert who has access alone with that device can make changes to it and do it so well that they could trick another expert. Like you said,
Right.
any of us could get tricked. And so the best, what I look to see as a best practice is that kind of chain of custody. So the chain of custody starts when the phone is seized,
Hmm.
and it ends when the phone is forensically imaged. Because normally what you do, you're doing a forensic image, and then you work with the image. You don't actually work with the original. The original goes back in the lockup,
Right.
um, and you're just working with the image, and you're doing whatever you have to with that. So that's typically what I expect to see, or I want to see from a best practice perspective. And where it deviates from that, then there may be the potential of being able to challenge the integrity of that and to challenge the evidence.
But hypothetically, if it is that, as you mentioned, phone comes in, stays in a locker, expert sees it about 14 days later or 9 days later, respectfully, access to it or whatever. Um, if the chain of custody remains intact, like they said in this particular case. We know who got it, we logged it, whatever, whatever.
Mhm.
The physical device can be accounted for. But what about the software? The not the hard copy, but the data, which is something that can be manipulated, tampered with, whether it be the time, whether it be the content. Um, how can you speak about integrity outside of the analogy of the rotten chicken?
Well,
That's
that's
yeah.
why the phone. That's why the phone is supposed to be powered off. It's supposed to be put away, um, because yeah, otherwise, like if the phone is left on and it's connected to the network, yes, that information can potentially change.
Right.
Um, so yeah, and this is something like I said, it's something they've gotten a lot better at. If you look at where they were, say 2011, and some of the stuff that we see here, and we look at some of the capabilities that they have now, which are, I would say, really world class.
Mm-hmm.
They've really come a long way.
As in Jamaica.
Yeah, the police team in Jamaica, they've really come a long way.
So you
Uh,
don't expect a repeat in what happened in the cartel matter in terms of the shady evidence.
yeah, I don't think so. And like I said, I think the thing that's really important to say here is all of this stuff that we see the evidence of off the phone happened before it happened before the phone was forensically imaged.
All right, but guess what? I have a case now, right? And I'm not gonna name the case, but I have a case now to which I definitely will need to get your services. Here's
Mm-hmm.
why. Um, the person is charged with identity information, possession of identity information. They're saying that they found some identity information, a lead sheet on the person's
Mm-hmm.
phone. The problem is the minute I see the lead sheet, it is a sheet. Usually, when you get a court file in the
Mm-hmm.
prosecution's office, they use this green, they punch a hole in the top of the file, use like this green stringy thing, and they tie it. It's so archaic, I don't know what it's called because I don't use that. But seeing that, and they can flip. So it's a hole puncher and the string that puts the papers together to keep
Mm-hmm.
it, to fasten it to the file. Now, when I see a paper that's alleged to be a lead sheet with that hole punched in it and the green, it's copied, and you see the green thing, so you know it's copied from a file.
Mm-hmm.
One does know, especially when the client is alleging that it's planted, if we are in an advent where those things don't happen again. Because it may not be the lab itself, but what of the item before it gets to the lab, and putting information onto
Yes.
the item before
Yeah.
the expert gets to see
Absolutely.
it.
And that's really where there's a vulnerability, because the um like I said, you may have some people who they decide their case isn't strong enough, they want to augment it a bit or something like that.
Mhm.
um and that's always a risk, especially people have quotas they're trying to go for, this type of thing. You may have potentially a risk there. um but there was one other case that I had worked where um we had this forensic report that had come from the lab,
Mhm.
and I'm not sure if the analyst in the lab was friends with someone or something like that. But basically, what they had done was they had curated the text messages that were in the phone. So there were 30 text messages in the conversation. They only showed, I think it was about 14 of them, and they arranged them in such a way that they looked incriminating.
Right.
And they also they also said in the report that the conversation was initiated by the defendant. This is a guy who was supposedly trying to bribe somebody. and it said that he initiated the conversation. Where when you look on the phone, you see she initiated the conversation. She was trying to get the guy to, she was begging money to buy a gas cylinder. And so she arranged to meet him somewhere where he would give her money to buy a gas cylinder. And then
what was the charge?
Attempting to pervert the course of justice.
Okay.
So he was supposedly trying to bribe her to get a case to basically throw out another case.
Right.
But then what happened is, shortly after he agreed to have the meeting, she sends this other text message off to a different guy that said, "We're still on for the mission tomorrow, but I caught another big fish. I caught him in the same net. What should I do?" A big fish. I caught another big fish in the same net. What should I do? And she's sending this off to some guy, and then she goes and she travels to the meeting, and so the forensic report completely misconstrued that conversation and made it look like he was the one who initiated the conversation, and he was the one who made it look very incriminating, where in fact she was the one who started the conversation. She was the one who was basically driving that. And in the middle of it, she's asking, she as soon as he agrees to meet, she's asking someone, "Hey, I caught a big fish. What should I do?" And all of that stuff was that message wasn't even in the forensic report. And so what happened was, shortly after I got involved with the case, the guy who wrote the original report left the police force and left the island. And it was funny. So then they brought in another person who had to do a completely different report, because obviously the first guy wasn't there to do that. So they produced a different report, but that report didn't have any opinions in it. It didn't say anything about, and it just listed out, there were this conversation, there was that conversation. And I said,
Right.
I agree with his report completely. He hasn't said anything wrong. But he really hasn't said much of anything. And
you had to put it in context.
And then the funny thing was, there was me and one of the defense attorneys. We were in the courtroom. The judge hadn't come in yet, and we were kind of talking a little bit loud within earshot of the prosecutor. And I was commenting to him that, I understand completely why that first analyst ran off. I would have run off too. Because the moment I put my hand on a Bible and say that this report is true, yes, I've just committed perjury.
Wow.
And we said that right in front of the prosecutor, and I think she was pretending not to listen.
I see that. No,
it is what it is.
I have to ask this though. In terms, there's a person in the comment section, Aggression Crybe, speaking about, I guess this would be, I don't even know if it's still technology evidence, but it's about the camera. You spoke about splicing earlier with the police officer and the magic gun. You also said something about a dragon, and when you said a dragon, I was like, I know Wenzel gets me. He watches Dragon Ball Z, and then I realized, I was like, Dragon Ball, but then I got you. But however, Aggression Crybe is speaking about the Donnelly case. That's a seminal case in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Very popular. I have to ask, if the answer is yes, we stop right there. But have you been contacted about any forensic work in that case?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so I don't want to speak too much on that, because I think that you may very well be in relation to that case.
I've had a few of these cases where, and I try not to have opinions on some of these, because some of them I end up getting pulled into, or sometimes I get pulled into on appeal, and then some of the cases. The funny thing is on the, sadly on the civil side, I don't necessarily, it makes it hard to make friends. What can I say? Because if there's, like, for example, a defamation case, I'll typically be tasked with gathering and preserving the evidence.
Right.
And then they might get an interim order against the defendant, and then I'm the guy tasked with monitoring compliance with that order.
Right. So you are enemy of whoever.
Yeah, there's a couple of people. There's a couple of
Somebody's
high
gonna be
profile.
unhappy. I
There's
know
a couple.
I know some unhappy people right now in relation to
Yeah,
your report and your work
yeah.
in matters. Work with you.
I'm sure you know at least one, and I know that, and then there's one other person who had referred to me as like the creepy stalker because I'm monitoring the compliance with the court order.
Right. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the social media aspects and these high profile cases. Try to just kind of speak about that now.
Okay.
The when you canvas social media, because you just spoke about monitoring, so
Mhm.
that's why I'm now transitioning to that.
Mhm.
What's that like for you? Because certainly, like for me, context matters is like every single Thursday, and I seldom miss a Thursday. So over a period of 2-3 years, I'm not good at math, but you lose count of how much content is out there in relation to context matters, whether it be the original video, YouTube shorts, TikTok, other persons all over the world taking the content and putting it out and splicing. I even had an experience last year where I was in a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour video, and it took like less than 90 seconds and started with me saying a
Mhm.
thing. And then the old people, they don't know the full remit of it, but they was like, oh, he said this. And then when they saw more of the video, they said, well, he wanted to say it, so still he's bad. And just talk about splicing, editing, cutting, pasting, monitoring, misinformation, misrepresentation. All that is bad, and to be able to take things out of context, which births why context actually matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your flow.
So in terms of that, there's some specialized tools that I use in terms of being able to do searching, based on keywords, based on images, that type of thing. And one of the things that where it's really important to have a partnership with that, because I find for those types of cases, it's a very much back and forth between me and whoever the attorney is.
Right.
Because typically for, like, say, defamatory content, what you're trying to do is get that stuff taken down. But for, say, a criminal case, you might be looking at what is the scope, like, how far did this reach? How many languages does it get translated to? That type of thing. Same thing with defamation. So, someone's put out some defamatory video or something, and then that video or that content has been repeated in this newspaper and that newspaper in all of these different countries and all of these different places. And there's been a few cases I've worked like that where you've had defamatory content, and often the first thing that they're looking to do is get that taken down, basically before anything else, because and so they'll be getting, like, for example, like an interim injunction or something like that to try and remove the content. And then at that point, what I do is verify that the content has come down.
Right.
And so forth. And
Okay.
that, or copyright violations, another one that's like that.
Okay. So in terms of preparing a report for the social media aspect of it, what does that look like? Does it include the content? I just need the terminologies.
Yeah. So typically the content is included as like, what you would do is I might do a big pull, and then that gets included as a schedule, but that schedule may be just an electronic file where I've dumped everything into an Excel file or something. But there's like thousands of tweets or something. And then what we would do is try and pull the ones that are actually relevant. And those would either go into a proper forensic report, similar to what what we had for the cartel case, or they may go into an affidavit
Mm-hmm.
where we're speaking specifically, like I'm giving my background, I'm stating that I personally saw these things and I downloaded them. So at that point, I'm not acting really as an expert. I'm actually acting as a fact witness in that point. I'm just downloading and preserving.
Right. Okay. Now, in terms of the a case where so this is just for educating the public now.
Mm-hmm.
The state has an expert. Are calling as the
Mm-hmm.
defense expert. What is the expectations of, or what's the purpose of having two experts, especially when you say what you say in an instance where you don't agree with the state's expert? How do we strike the balance, or what does that mean for reasonable doubt?
Well, this is also like this is the reality is if we're kind of taking different approaches. Like the state's expert, they'll often go in and you remember I said there's the potential of people getting tricked.
Yes.
They're going in and they're looking at certain things, and they may be more willing to make an assumption that what they see in front of them is bona fide evidence.
Right.
Where I will tend to take, if we're challenging the evidence, I'm going to look at what the instructions from the client are. If the client's saying that, this video has been doctored, I didn't say that, these voice, what I'll do is I will take that audio or that video, and I've got some specialized tools that I'll load it up into. And I'll look at, for example, I'll take an audio file and I'll look at the spectrogram of the audio file. And one of the cool things with that is we're here in tropical country. If you go to certain places, you tend to have fans. Now, a fan on a spectrogram is just a straight line.
Right.
And if you and so you can see that on the background, like what you're usually doing when you're doing audio analysis, we tend to tune out the background. I'm actually trying to focus on the background. And that's telling me, if the background is consistent, that perhaps the speaker was standing in the same place. If I see the background suddenly change, where this one fan stops and then there's another fan at a different frequency starts, okay, maybe that was a splice. If, certain things like that, where, there's analysis that you can do, and there's some specialized tools that we can do it with. Once, if the client's suggesting that he didn't say this stuff, well, then we can go through, and if I can find evidence that there was splicing or overdubbing or some sort of editing, then I can bring that to attention. If I don't find it, well, then I can't lie. I can't say that I found something when I actually didn't find anything. So it's entirely possible that the client may pay for that initial investigation, and then I go in and I don't find anything.
Okay.
That's kind of the risk.
Okay, but when you do find something and you present that report, and that report is being used in the court, what is the outcome? I'm trying to figure out if
what I've typically on the civil side, what I generally have to do is I'm presenting a report or I'm presenting an affidavit, and when I'm called into the court, they're limited by the civil procedure rules in terms of what they're allowed to ask me, because that report then is my evidence in chief, and they're basically just allowed to ask me, what's your name, blah, blah, blah. Did you write this report? Yes. Okay. How would you identify this as your report? It has my signature on it. Okay. Can you look at this and tell me if this is your report? I look through, I see my signature. Yes. Okay. And then they sit down, and then cross-examination starts. So on the civil side, it tends to be like that. On the criminal side, the trouble that you have, reports don't play nicely with juries. It's a judge may appreciate the forensic report, but even they may not, because you've got, potentially techie stuff that's in that report that the judge may misunderstand. So for a criminal case, what I found is it tends to be for most of them, evidence that I get brought up on the stand, I'm either talking to the jury or I'm presenting to the judge. And that provides an opportunity where, especially for the judge, if the judge has any questions, they're going to ask. If they see something that they're not clear about, they're like, okay, what does this word mean? The judge will actually interrupt counsel and ask that question, where they don't get that opportunity if I just give them a report.
Okay. So in other words, the report is not enough. Sometimes it's important to be able to have the explanations that come with it.
Yeah, and what's tricky is, I've heard one interpretation under the Evidence Act that you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's either I can have a report or I can give live evidence on the stand. And so typically in a case like that, I may have a report that's shared with the counsel and I'm referring to it. I'll ask permission to refer to it, but I'm actually giving live evidence from it, just using it as my basis.
Okay. And that's from the civil side. But about the
that's on the criminal side. On the civil side, it's usually I don't even have the option.
You just put the report in, and that's the evidence.
And then I get questioned, and then I get cross-examined on it.
Okay, in the criminal realm, though, the thing that you just said a while ago, techie stuff, techie thingy, I find it hilarious when even I myself, because I have a smartphone and the new iPhone 16 is out. It looks like 15. Usually, I'm still after probably 12, where 13, 14, 15, they all look the same. That you don't do anything extra with it, nothing different. First of all, in the Jamaican region, half of the features, the phone companies don't have the technology or the platform for you to enjoy the features that come with the phone. Why am I saying all of this? Is you wake up one morning and you're riding a bicycle with two wheels and you show up to court and they're talking about metadata, epoch, GSM, Bogata, -5, GMT, Eastern Standard Time versus epoch time. And then you talk about splicing, and then AI comes in and somebody said it wasn't me, Shaggy. I'm going all of that. And then you're supposed to somehow say or communicate as an attorney in reliance on you with a jury who worse, they're still in the Nokia 320 phone type of thing.
You want to hear a funny story?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So one of the funny things around audio recordings, a lot of times what will happen is we have to produce a transcript. So I remember this one case where we had the transcript on. I checked the transcript, so I had this whole transcript.
Yes.
And then I was asked to read the transcript into evidence. So the transcript is in raw patois, and I mean I'm good with patois, but it's not my first language. So I am here reading the transcript into evidence. The jury was almost on the floor laughing.
Yeah.
The judge was almost on the floor laughing. The entire courtroom and the poor courtroom recorder with that little machine and she was sitting there, had asked me to repeat myself a few times and yeah, so it was about 20 minutes of hilarity.
But so no, you have to give us a demonstration. Context matters. What's some of the patois that you struggle with, apart from Bumbleclot German beer? Give me something.
No, man, not gonna do that.
You're not gonna do that. Iron. All right, say less. But in terms of I know we spoke about resume but the work that you do, it's the difference between somebody losing their liberty or somebody being vindicated through proof of defamatory content. I'm gonna ask you now because we're at where the time is flying. The information is
Mhm.
so good, but the time is moving really fast. I'm gonna ask you now in terms of advice, and I want the advice to be geared at the common man. A lot of times
Mhm.
they don't believe that it could be you. The
Mhm.
difference from a traffic stop that before you know it, you hear that you're a suspect in a murder case that was picked up on a video camera from somewhere, and whatever. And only an expert can possibly vindicate you because even DNA evidence is linking you to a crime, but the technology is what's to vindicate you. I need just advice on the importance of an expert. What do you need to do to understand what the expert is saying and just how to navigate the space?
Okay, so the first thing is, and the interesting thing is, I've had most of the cases that I've worked. I'd say 2/3 of the case I've worked, the client approaches the lawyer, and the lawyer approaches me. I've also had clients approach me, and then I bring the lawyer in,
Mm-hmm.
um, because typically what you're looking for, if there's on the criminal side, if you have forensic evidence that you want to challenge, it's very important. You need to have your own expert, because the trouble is that your lawyer, they'll have trouble cross-examining the other side's expert. One of the things that I do behind the scenes is I advise counsel on what questions to ask.
Right.
So I'll do the dissection. I'll coach counsel. So when counsel gets up and they're cross-examining the other expert, they know what to ask. It can also be in terms of cross-examining a fact witness, like if you've got, like for example, that lady I was mentioning who took those recordings.
Right.
So I was right there in the room during the cross-examination, and being able to assist in terms of what questions got asked and something like that, to be able to um, to give an effective cross-examination.
Right.
So really, if there's on a criminal case, if there's forensic evidence like a phone or something like that, and you think that there's something on there that's inaccurate, and you want to challenge it, well, that's where an expert comes in. And it's not, most of the time, it's not necessarily that someone edited this or like doctored that. Most of the time, it's just someone got something wrong. Someone didn't.
Mm.
They made a mistake. The police make mistakes too, so it's entirely possible that they made a mistake. And I'm just
No,
in there helping
you
them.
know, I don't want to cut you, but when you said that, I thought of one particular thing. And I
Mhm.
was telling you about epoch time,
Yeah.
Eastern Standard Time,
Mhm.
daylight saving time, and the
Mhm.
thing about mistake. And that's one of the key things that happen.
Yeah.
Certainly in that particular case, and I'm going
Yeah.
back to it because it was my most profound experience with
Yeah.
experts in that many things are wrong. Maybe there is nothing wrong, but if somebody dies at 10:30 and an expert doesn't know, well, not say doesn't know, but is misinformed or didn't catch the daylight saving time, as you said, the sun was up at a certain time,
Mhm.
and what the area is supposed to look like forensically, not just
Yeah.
digitally, that it makes a difference in terms of misinterpret. So
Oh, absolutely.
the Crohn's expert may very well say, this what that I'm looking at the video, the timestamp after I did the calculation, phone conversion, it's 3 o'clock, and therefore the person must have been at this place
Mhm.
at 3 o'clock. And then you come in and you says, well, I checked the time, daylight saving times, it was a leap year, therefore so and
Mhm.
so, and it's actually 7 o'clock.
Yeah, and that was a big issue in that case, is where you had, there were a couple of mistakes that had gotten made in terms of
Mm-hmm.
the timestamp and what time zone that represented.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and some of that can vary based on the file system, because newer systems, what they do is they're grabbing Greenwich Mean Time, and that's what they're
Mm-hmm.
storing, and then they're just showing you whatever time zone you're in, it's showing you the time there. But there's some other file systems that don't store the time zone, and they actually store it in local time, and or some devices. And so that's something you have to be aware of too. Is just that what you see may not be what you get.
Okay. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And yeah, I just had to ask that, but continue with your advice.
Yeah. So yes. Well, the biggest advice. So that's one thing. But the big advice is talk to your lawyer. You make sure if you get an opportunity to review whatever the evidence is, and communicate with your lawyer about anything that you think is wrong. Like I think it's very important that clients need to talk to their lawyers and need to have a very open conversation with their lawyers, because then at that point the lawyer can make a determination. Okay, if my client is thinking that this forensic evidence is off, then the lawyer may say, okay, yeah, I need to bring an expert in to help me challenge this in court.
Right.
Because the trouble that you have is if you don't bring someone in to challenge it, it's probably going to stick, and you may be spending 13 years in a not so nice place.
Okay, I got that. I'm wondering, with the time that is allotted, because you gave us a plethora of information for us to think about. Well executed. I didn't expect any less. I did learn a lot today, even after talking to you so many times. Just a few months ago, leading up to this particular case, which you contributed. Words cannot express the value
Oh,
of
thank you.
the value of your contribution to what was presented before the court.
Yeah.
Especially the social media aspect of it. And we found out that Lady Whistledown was actually an anonymous person with a device that allowed them to change their name. I'm not calling any names, but you know who it is, who was issuing evidence and pronouncing guilt and influencing people. Um, so for me, I just really appreciate the fact that you are able to take the time out of your busy schedule to educate the public so they understand sometimes that when they see lawyers who are confident in court, having chosen the right expert to set them in the right direction, they know exactly what to expect in terms of the outcome when you're within when you have the full knowledge. So you just said just now that they're to talk to their lawyers and
Mhm.
the importance of communicating with your lawyer and instructing.
Mhm.
So I guess the advice also would be to lawyers and young lawyers. I don't speak for the
Mhm.
older ones, but young lawyers to have an appreciation that they're to actually listen to their clients, be the
Mhm.
servant to their clients. Just, I mean, this same thing would go for
And,
politicians too. You
and
are to serve the people that you work for. You are to take instructions and listen, because sometimes, even though you know the law, your client may say something that can
and
prompt you to get an expert, especially
and
when you're not.
yeah, and be prepared to challenge. If the client is saying that this evidence is wrong, be prepared to challenge that. Make sure the client knows. Yeah, experts aren't cheap. So yeah, if you send me down that path and the expert comes back and says the same thing as what the police are saying, well, that's just wasted money. So make sure that the client's pretty confident in what they're saying in terms of what they think is off. But once you've got that, go for it.
That's the advice, because the communication which you raised. Big up yourself, Ron, Mr. Robinson, the man responsible for artwork. And having you look like you're a part of the Matrix, Mr. Anderson. But anyway, let me leave that alone. The importance being able to communicate with your lawyer, knowing that privity or the privacy
Hmm.
between you and your lawyer, the confidentiality, that the lawyer can't disclose what you say to them, and you'd be in a position to tell the truth. So
Yeah.
so at that moment when your lawyer say I have to pay, when your lawyer says I have to pay for an expert who is going to charge $1 million or $10 million because of the complexity,
Mm.
you need to know that you're not sending me on a wild goose chase because you want me, your lawyer, to think that you're a good person. And then when I get the expert is gonna say, ah, no, he's bad, really
Yeah,
bad.
and, and,
And you
and
you
by
have
the
to
way,
pay, for that conclusion.
yeah, by the way, important thing there before anyone, you made a point about in terms of privacy and stuff like that.
Yes.
The two cases I've just mentioned, the clients both, I spoke to them. I didn't name them here, but I spoke to them, and they both gave consent for me to go into that kind of detail on the show
Hmm.
here. So I'm not violating their confidentiality, and they both, they're probably both in the audience right now because they said they both
Right.
wanted to watch.
No, the information, I must say, in any event, that the information, and we thank them because you did communicate that they did allow you to share the information, and we appreciate them because educating the public is important. There's a person in the comment, aggression something. I feel the pain of the person because they're trying to disseminate information about not just INDECOM, but state actors to take a little bit more forensic approach to the Donnelly case in terms of the video evidence, the collection of the evidence, the importance of getting it right, and also interviewing all witnesses who appear on camera to ensure that what is before the court is of importance and forensic enough so that the jury or everybody can be able to make an informed decision. A
Yeah,
lot of times it doesn't change that the suspect or the accused person before the court is still cloaked in the presumption of innocence, and that's why all the information is needed. More so, what you have done today certainly is to it's ironic because speaking to you in this capacity without the lawyer hat on, the information is processed so differently. And to
can I tell you something?
put in context, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, so you hit on an interesting subject, which is
Hmm.
INDECOM.
Hmm.
And one of the challenges that INDECOM have is they don't have a forensic lab. At least they didn't before. I don't know if they do now, but that's been a problem. So, for example, the police officer I was telling you about,
Hmm.
they didn't analyze that video. They just flung him in. They just locked him up. They
Right.
presume, like, if they had analyzed the video, or if they had one of the police labs analyze the video, they would have found the same stuff I did.
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
they would have found those exact same things. And so that's one of the challenges that you have when you talk about Indicom. They don't have the same,
Technological capabilities.
yeah, they don't have the same capabilities at all compared to, like, the police lab, Mocha, them. They have some beautiful labs, but like I said, Indicom, that's one of the challenges they have.
But you see, you're so glad you mentioned that. So I'm putting it in context. What I hear you saying is Indicom is possibly backward right now. They're a bit redundant because they don't have the capacity.
They're supposed to be independent. Like, so I wouldn't say they're redundant. They're supposed to be an independent agency
Hmm.
whose job it is to police the police. So that's what their job is. The problem is that they may, like they don't have the resources themselves unless they call in outside help.
Okay, so in other words, what takeaway from this or a teachable moment is to give them the capacity to
Hmm.
remain independent,
Hmm.
to do so swiftly. So why I say I'm putting it into context and why I use the word redundant is that without the proper equipment, without the proper tools, without the proper training, even if they have the training, without the capacity and the equipment
Hmm.
and the resources, they won't be able to carry out their event investigations effectively. So
Hmm.
that when I see aggression, aggression is in the chat saying, "Listen, things happen at the crime scene. Indicom drop the ball, so and so," and then we're knowing that they don't have the capacity, so they can't go behind the video. They won't identify the splicing and say there are
Hmm.
two possibilities: the magic gun or the splicing. Things like
Right.
that. So in the absence of that, we see why even an Indicom may very well need to have the capacity in
Hmm.
terms of the resources to hire experts like you to assist them
Exactly.
in analyzing. And this is not job shopping, but this is to ensure that the citizens who make the complaint about police misconduct is also represented in the same light, like when the police and the prosecution have the resources to, as you said, they have the better labs now, and they're able
Mhm.
to, in terms of equality of arms, they certainly have the arsenal to do what they're doing.
And in the case of INDECOM, it's a disproportionate number of the cases that INDECOM would handle, just based on the nature of what they do, that have some forensic component, especially when you're getting into things like body cams. Okay, so police wearing a body cam.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've actually got video evidence, but video evidence needs that type of analysis done on it because, like I mentioned, that one officer, his life was on hold for a period of time. He couldn't see his son for more than a year because his son was in the U.S. and he wasn't allowed to travel,
Right.
because they didn't have the capacity to properly review that video. If they had, they never would have charged him.
Mm. So true. So
You
true.
know, and he has his life back now.
Okay. And that's credited to the information that you found in the technology.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Excellent. Just for edification, we're almost at closing. I leave you for your final words. Where can we find you? How can we hire you? Um, we know you're a bad babysitter because you couldn't get the child in the background to stop making noise. So it's free for all. There's no Dora Explorer, no Baby Shark, do. But outside of that, just how can we continue? And I'm being told that I need to invite you on the show more often,
Okay.
as a lot of technological bloopers happens in the Jamaican
Oh
space
yes. Oh
across,
yes.
from media personnel to politicians to dissemination of information. Your commentary may be very valuable. So I'm extending that invitation to you, but also
I'm
I'm going to
anytime you
cut
want
off
me
and
here.
I'll leave it to close. Go ahead.
Okay. So thank you guys very much for taking the time to listen. It's been a pleasure. It's been a great pleasure. I hope everyone had a good opportunity to learn about digital forensics and its importance. And I look forward to coming on the show again.
Excellent, excellent. And as I said, how can they find you apart from Twitter?
Okay.
How
Okay.
can they
Twitter's it.
hire you? Numbers,
Okay.
anything for so that they can
Okay.
retain your services,
T-
or advise their lawyers how to
okay.
find you.
Okay. Twitter is the easiest way to find me. You can also, but yeah, Twitter is the easiest way. You can also email my firm at sales@caribtech.com, CARIBTEK, and we'll go from there. But yeah, easiest way to find me is on Twitter. I'm on there all the time, and you're on there too, ISAT, and
Mhm.
so that is one of the quickest ways to find me, is to find me on there.
Okay, okay. All right. So the comment in the comment section, I'm not seeing any questions for you. They said, okay, what's your Twitter handle? See if you can say it again. So there are people
My
on Twitter
okay, you
handle
see
is
Sean Wenzel. You see the spelling of my name? Just at
yes.
sign
All right.
SHAWN.
It's at Sean Wenzel. Wenzel. SHAWNWENZEL.
Yeah,
Wenzel.
yeah. As far as I know, I'm the only Wenzel on the whole island. So
He's the only Wenzel on the whole island, but if you go to Instagram, there are like 7,896 Sean Wenzel, and all of them look like him. Don't ask me how that happened, but I was trying to tag him, and that's what happened. There's a younger version of him, an older version, yes, and at Sean Wenzel. That's it. That's it, Joel. But yeah, so the comment section, they're saying, Juliet is saying, great show, blessings to you, Sean Wenzel.
pleasure.
Serena too says, very informative discussion. Thank you, Mr. Wenzel. Rowena Williams says, thank you, Mr. Sean Wenzel, for this awesome information. Missy Brom Brom, straight out from Reasoning with Ractigan. Big up yourself. She says, thank you, Sir Wenzel. You are a delight. Thank you. So they're very thankful for the information that you're doing. And even Stay Tight says Carol Banton, very interesting to rewatch. And Allison says, Mr. Wenzel, thank you very much. And yes, we learn a lot this afternoon. Somebody says, "Oh, Mr. Wenzel, I'm so disappointed that you didn't do a patwa. We really wanted to hear you how you do." I'm not seeing that, but I really
You,
wanted to hear.
you
Yeah,
should have.
and aggression. Cry B says can't have an app bossy like that with high level security and camera packs up everywhere, and a murder happened there, yet gone to use car wash camera to solve murder. Only Jamaica do the nonsense. So that's in relation to the Donnelly case and all the bloopers that happen with it and the lack of the forensic aspect of it. But the case is, and I don't know where the case is now, but I'm certain that with the technology that you said the JCF has now, notwithstanding that the defendant is a member of the JCF, that the JCF generally puts out all the stops when it comes
Mhm.
to assisting with the prosecution. So do we just to put it in context, notwithstanding one-off situations where persons have the critique, is that the members of the JCF are upstanding members of society that actually take pride in their work, and we should not forget that,
Yeah,
and think about what happened in the past versus what happened now. And the body cam issue that you
yeah.
raise of utmost importance. We're in a different era, and they don't have to
Mhm.
borrow Mr. Palmer's teleporting devices anymore
Mhm.
because the technology is improving. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I was just commenting as well. I mean, I have acted as a prosecution expert as well.
Mhm.
So, I occasionally am on the dark side.
I'm glad you knew that sometimes you go to the dark side, because I was going to say, I should have known. You should have disclosed. Now it explains why you give so much credit. Anyway, let me leave that alone. Yeah, but great stuff. I really appreciated the work. Continue to contributing to our jurisprudence, because what you have done is given us the opportunity, certainly, to improve what happens in our judicial system, especially when they interface with the executive, that being the police officers who are charged with, you know, charging people per se, and
Hmm.
the wide powers that they have. In interesting times to be able to have a conversation with INDECOM in terms of how can we strengthen INDECOM, especially at a time where extrajudicial killings is happening, and um, every time you turn on the news, it says there was gunfire and the accused men were murdered and the police are unharmed. And so dead man can't go court, and we don't need experts when they're all dead. So that's something to watch. Thank you so much again. We are at the top of the hour, signing off from Reggae Global Radio. And Mr. Wenzel, thank you so much. I hope you have the rest of the evening. Enjoy, and I hope that they like, subscribe, share, and follow you on Twitter, where you reign supreme next to Mr. Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Let me stop. Let me stop. All right. So take care.
Yeah, thank
All
you
right.
so much.
All right.
Thanks for
Bye.
having me.
Yeah, man. No problem. People, it was an excellent conversation. I really, really, really appreciate it. And I told you, you guys were going to learn. He is the lead singer of our legal band. So if you're going to have a band and you want to put out great legal music, you need an expert as the lead singer, because nobody wants to hear from you. They're not going to believe you anyway. But when the expert comes in as the lead singer, it was called Sean Wenzel and the Lawyer Band. Yeah, that was the name of the group. And that's the group that contributed to freeing Mr. Palmer. So you guys can have a wonderful show in December when the time comes. So that's our show. I hope to see you guys next week. We're gonna have two interesting things happening, but I'll formally announce it. But I think there's going to be some interaction with the Mona Law Society. Um, this is where the young minds are trained to become great lawyers. And I've always told you guys, if you are educated, it changes your life. Intelligent just oozes out of you, an appreciation and love for the Constitution when you get to walk the halls of the Faculty of Law in Mona and be able to interact with Tracy Robinson, who knows the Constitution, and then you change, and then you start to wonder when you hear a government that doesn't understand the Constitution wants to amend the Constitution. You're like, what? And then a lawyer who's going to be the prime minister says, none of that, not under your watch. You like to call state of emergency. Go and sit down. And everybody say, oh, go. You better give up your dual citizenship, because when you have two citizenship, you know what you have to do? You have to give up one because you have to run away. And then one person take the foot of clerks and so they can't call the general election. Cause one of the clerks them get dash away. That's what happens. So yeah, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. But you do see how those things work, right? Because that's really what happened. So pretty much all I just want to say, it was a true pleasure having you guys on watching Context Matters, participating, and the time went by so fast. Even though the information was technical, it certainly was palatable, and with the analogies. Just remember, wherever you are, if you have rotten chicken, throw it away and get KFC. That's what I do, because clearly I can't cook. So if the chicken in my house, it's go rotten and it's gonna be tainted. So I throw it out and just go get it at the store. But then Mr. Wenzel might say, but then what if you go there and they're serving rotten cooked chicken? You have to throw it out because it's all tainted. And I mean, that's what I think he would say. Excellent guy. I really appreciate his work, and I want to say see you guys next week. TikTok people, I know I'm just giving myself trouble, but don't feel no way. And oh, by the way, conference is Sunday. The People's National Party is Sunday. Even I think the debate with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris was exciting, you should say conference. You don't want to miss it. To miss is to this. So you see when they leave church, anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. See you guys. Blessings.
It took some time to understand, yeah, just what it takes to be a man. Now it seems each day you learn something to make a better way. Growing up ain't just a phase, it's reality. And sometimes it's hard to face the world with your head screwed on. But in time you will see, it comes naturally, like the hurt and the pain. It's a part of the game. It's all a part of life, to laugh and to cry. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way. But if you need a helping hand, just call on me, I will be your friend. And when it gets hard to face the world with your head screwed on, just tell yourself you can. And that's when you'll understand that the hurt and the pain, it's a part of the game. It's all a part of life, to laugh and to cry. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. You gotta keep on moving on. Don't let no one stand in your way. Gotta keep on pressing on. As we pray for better days, keep it moving. Moving to the next. When they try to bring you down, we gotta take it to the next level when they come around. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. Just keep your head up, yeah. Just keep your head up.